Hi. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. If you've ever had a moment where time stopped, not from beauty, but from impact, this one's for you. I wish I could say this is fiction, but it's not. It's just what happens when you ignore your gut long enough for it to become a grave. It started with the red dress. Not because it was revealing. Not because it was inappropriate. But because she hated red. Said it made her feel like a fire truck. I remember that word specifically. Fire truck. But she wore it anyway. It was hanging on the bathroom door when I got home. The tag still attached, $389. She didn't even try to hide the receipt. Brenna was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting the straps like she was about to accept an award. I asked, stupidly, "Red? I thought you didn't like red." She didn't answer. Just smirked at herself and said, "Plans change." And right there, that should have been my moment. My red flag. My siren. But I was too busy trying to decide if I should microwave her dinner or wait for her to eat with me. That's who I am, by the way. The guy who stays quiet instead of speaking up. The guy who deletes drafted texts. The guy who calls it just a gut feeling instead of what it really is, proof wrapped in silence. She left that night around 7:14 p.m. I know the exact time because I checked the timestamp on the hallway security cam after everything fell apart. Before she walked out, I asked where she was going. She said it fast, "Kelsey's thing." That's not a real answer. That's the kind of thing people say when they need plausible deniability. Kelsey's thing. Here's what's sick, I almost believed her. Even after the other things. The second phone. The voice memo she didn't know synced to our shared cloud. The Uber driver who accidentally called me instead of her. The week she said she was at a wellness retreat, but used our shared Amazon account to order men's deodorant and socks to a hotel 2 cities away. I saw it all. I swallowed every piece of it and tried to make it digestible. Blamed myself for being too emotional, too paranoid, too annoying. But that night, something broke. She was halfway out the door, red heels tapping like war drums, when I said it. Not loud. Just enough. "If you leave now, it's over." She didn't flinch. Didn't pause. Just turned her head slightly, the way someone does when they think they misheard something beneath them. Then she laughed. That single, scoffing laugh. The one that said everything without saying a word. And then she walked out. No goodbye. No apology. Not even a fake excuse. Just the echo of heels, the scent of her perfume, and that red dress like a warning flare I ignored too long. She made the choice. And I let her. But this is just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad. Not even because I missed her. I didn't sleep because my brain couldn't decide whether to explode or shut down. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me like it had somewhere better to be, just like her. At around 2:47 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. No name. Just a message that read, "She's safe. Don't wait up." That was it. No punctuation. No signature. Just 5 words that kicked me in the chest harder than any punch I've ever taken, and I've been in exactly one fight, in 8th grade, over a stolen juice box. I lost, by the way. But this wasn't a fight. This was a disappearance. I stared at the message for 20 minutes, not sure if I should reply, call, or hurl my phone into the sink. Instead, I walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. I didn't drink it. Just left it there on the counter like some stupid peace offering to no one. The house was so quiet I could hear my own pulse. That made me feel even worse, like my body was trying to remind me I was still alive when everything else felt like it had flatlined. Around 4:15 a.m., I checked her location. Yeah, I know, creepy, obsessive, whatever. But when you're married to someone for 5 years and your marriage feels like it's held together by duct tape and guilt, you do desperate things. Her phone was at a hotel. Not just any hotel, one of those boutique spots with mood lighting and valet parking. The kind of place people don't go unless they plan to be seen, or never seen again. I zoomed in on the map until it blurred. I wanted to tell myself it was nothing, that maybe she had a last-minute client emergency, or that Kelsey's thing turned into a spontaneous girls' night out, or maybe even that she was having a breakdown and just needed space. But the message. That damn message. She's safe. Safe from what? From me. And just like that, it hit me, I was the villain in someone else's version of this story. The clingy, boring husband. The one who asks too many questions. The one who never goes to the gym. The one who holds her back from her real life. You know what's funny? I still didn't pack a bag. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't even shut off the bedroom light. I just sat there in that chair next to the window, watching the sunrise like it owed me answers. She walked back in at 6:42 a.m. Same red dress. Different lipstick. No apology. She dropped her heels at the door like nothing had happened. I turned to look at her, and for a brief moment, I thought she might say something. Something real. Something like, I messed up, or, I need help, or even, it's not what you think. But instead, she walked to the kitchen, picked up the glass of water I had poured, and drank it. Like it belonged to her. Like I didn't. And then. She looked me in the eye and said, "Don't be dramatic, Irving. You always ruin mornings." That sentence, that tone, that complete dismissal of everything, it was worse than any affair, any betrayal, any lie. Because it meant she had already rewritten the story. And in hers, I was the annoying footnote dragging her down. I didn't respond. I just watched her disappear down the hallway, the empty glass still in her hand. And I sat there thinking. She didn't just choose to leave. She chose to laugh when I asked her to stay. And she chose to walk back in like nothing mattered. But I'm not sure I'll be here the next time she does. The next few days were strange. Not explosive. Not loud. Just hollow. She didn't bring it up. I didn't either. It's bizarre, isn't it? How two people who used to whisper dreams into each other's skin can walk around the same house like roommates who barely make eye contact. There was no apology, no confrontation, just a quiet war fought in glances and ignored dishes. But I kept thinking about the water glass. She drank it like it belonged to her. Like I was the ghost in her house. She started humming again, too. Not real songs, just tuneless melodies she used to sing while folding laundry or getting ready. But this time it felt cruel. Like a soundtrack to a movie I didn't have a role in anymore. The final push came on a Wednesday. I had taken the day off work. I told my manager I wasn't feeling well. That wasn't a lie. I wasn't sick, just tired. Not physically. Not in the way you can sleep off. Just tired of pretending I didn't see the cracks growing wider every time she smiled like she had a secret. I went into the guest room, the one she used when she said she needed space. I told myself I was looking for my missing hoodie, but I think part of me wanted to find something else. And I did. Under the bed, wedged behind a box of her old yoga gear, was a plain white envelope. No name. No label. Nothing. I stared at it for a full minute before touching it, like it might explode. Inside. Printed directions to a cabin 2 hours away. A reservation receipt. 2 guests. 1 queen bed. And a handwritten note that said, "Brenna, Friday can't come soon enough. No more hiding. Let's make this real. I love you. T." It was like someone had slapped the oxygen out of my lungs. I sat on the floor with that envelope in my hand for what felt like hours. Just staring at it. Reading it over and over like it might change. Like maybe it was a prank. A joke. A prop from some drama she was writing. But it wasn't. I heard the front door open. She was home early. I didn't hide the envelope. I didn't rush to confront her either. I just stood up slowly, walked out to the kitchen, and placed it on the table. She walked in, carrying a smoothie and talking on the phone, something about back-to-back clients and rescheduling Thursday's session. She saw the envelope, paused, and ended the call. Her face didn't crumble. Her hands didn't shake. She just stared at it like she was waiting to see what version of myself I'd be this time. I didn't say anything. Not, how long? Not, whose tea? Not, why? I just said, you weren't supposed to let me find that, were you? She didn't answer. Just walked past me, picked up the envelope, and dropped it into the trash can like it was junk mail. Then she turned to me and said, "You're being obsessive again, Irving." That word. Obsessive. I think it broke something in me. Because you don't call someone obsessive for discovering you're about to run off to a cabin with another man. You call them that when you're trying to rewrite the story, when you want to be the victim and make me the problem. That night, she slept soundly. I watched her from the hallway, curled up beneath the duvet like she hadn't just demolished what little was left of our marriage. Me. I sat in the kitchen with the trash bin beside me, holding that envelope in my hands again. She forgot I always take the trash out in the morning. She also forgot who paid for the printer that printed the confirmation page. And she definitely forgot I wasn't as weak as she thought I was. I didn't cancel the reservation. I didn't call her out. I didn't scream, didn't throw her clothes out onto the lawn, didn't post about her on Facebook like some kind of bitter sitcom character. That's not who I am. I internalize things until they rot. But I did something else. I waited until Friday. I watched her pack in the morning, light luggage, activewear, makeup bag, the perfume I hadn't smelled in months. She claimed she had a weekend retreat for work. No phones allowed, she said. No phones. The lie was so predictable it was insulting. I think she wanted me to push back. I didn't. I just nodded. Told her to be safe. She kissed my cheek like she was clocking out of a shift she didn't care about anymore. The moment she left, I showered. Got dressed. Grabbed my keys. And I drove. The reservation was still under her name, but I'd seen the location. I had the address, the check-in code, even the receipt she'd printed. She was sloppy. Or maybe just that confident I wouldn't do anything. Either way, she underestimated me. 2 hours of driving through winding roads in silence. My thoughts tried to claw their way out of my skull, but I kept the radio off. I didn't want music. I wanted to hear the sound of me unraveling. When I pulled up to the cabin, I felt nauseous. It was beautiful, rustic, remote, with a wraparound porch and tall trees that whispered in the wind like they'd seen too much. I sat in the car for 10 minutes before I worked up the nerve to walk in. The code worked. The door clicked open. The place was set up for romance. Fireplace logs stacked. A bottle of wine chilling. A single queen bed dressed in white linens. Candles arranged around the room like it was supposed to be their sanctuary. But it was just me. I stood there, breathing too hard, hands trembling like I was holding a loaded secret. And then I noticed something, 2 wine glasses already out. One with a faint lipstick mark. Red. She'd already been here. Or worse, she had dropped her things off earlier and planned to come back later with him. I checked my phone. No texts. No missed calls. Just a silent signal that told me I was still invisible. I looked around, unsure what I was supposed to do. Leave? Wait? Snoop? I hated the idea of digging through her things, but I was past the point of guilt. I found her bag in the closet. Inside, a silk nightgown, 2 toothbrushes, a small box of condoms, unopened, and a note tucked into the side pocket. I wish I hadn't read it. But I did. I'm scared but ready. He doesn't know anything. After this weekend, I'll start planning the separation. I can't keep pretending. You make me feel like I exist again. B. You make me feel like I exist again. That line didn't just hurt. It humiliated me. Because I thought I was the one who made her feel safe. Supported. Like she could fall apart and still be loved. And yet here I was, a ghost in a cabin she reserved for someone else. Holding a letter she never meant for me. Realizing I was just a stepping stone on her way to someone better. I didn't cry. I just sat on the porch for a while and watched the woods. It was quiet out there. A kind of peaceful that made the inside of my chest feel loud and angry. At one point, I heard a bird land on the railing near me, and I almost asked it what it would do if its whole world collapsed in one paragraph. At 5:42 p.m., a car pulled up the long gravel path. I didn't move. I just sat there, arms crossed, letter still in my jacket pocket, and waited to see if she'd recognize her mistake the second she saw me. She stepped out of the car. Alone. No one else. Just her. She froze when she saw me. Her keys dangled in her hand like they were trying to escape. I didn't say a word. She didn't either. She stared at me like she wasn't sure if I was real, or if I'd finally grown the spine she always assumed I didn't have. And finally, after what felt like a century trapped between heartbeats, she said the worst possible thing she could have. Why are you here? Not what are you doing here? Not please let me explain. Not I'm sorry. Just why are you here? As if I didn't belong in the wreckage of my own marriage. I reached into my jacket. Held out the note. Didn't let go. Because I found this, I said. Her face went white. She looked like she wanted to run. But she didn't. She laughed. Again. And I knew in that moment, it was over. Not because she cheated. But because when faced with everything, she chose to laugh. And laughter, at the wrong time, is more final than goodbye. She didn't take the note. I held it out like a peace treaty, or maybe a final nail in the coffin. Either way, she just stared at it like it was covered in something contagious. Her hand twitched, then dropped. No apology. No excuses. Just a shallow sigh like I had ruined a weekend she'd been planning for weeks. You shouldn't be here, Irving, she said, quiet and sharp, as if I'd barged in on a secret ritual instead of showing up to a cabin I paid for with my own credit card. Her voice had changed too, lighter, more casual, like she wasn't speaking to her husband, but to someone she'd already emotionally buried. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat locked up, and my stomach twisted itself into something painful. I had spent so many nights wondering what I would say if I ever caught her, ever truly confronted her, and now that I had, the only thing I could muster was silence. Not because I had nothing to say. But because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. She stepped past me like I was a piece of porch furniture. I'm not doing this here, she muttered, unlocking the cabin with a swipe and a beep. Her bag was still inside. Her scent was already soaked into the pillows. And she acted like I was the intruder. I followed her in. Not to argue. Not to scream. But to witness it. All of it. I wanted to see how much effort she would put into pretending she wasn't already gone. She walked straight to her duffel and zipped it up. Fast. No ceremony. Like she was erasing a mistake. You ruined everything, she mumbled. Not in rage. Not even in sadness. Just in this passive, cold tone that stabbed deeper than any scream could. And then came the moment. The real moment. She turned and said, "I was going to tell you. After the weekend. I just needed a clean break. A clean break. As if love was a rental lease. As if our marriage, our entire history, was a sweater she outgrew and wanted to donate without a thank you note." I finally found my voice, and it cracked like old wood. "Who is he?" She didn't hesitate. "Tyler." I'd never heard the name. Never seen the texts. Never caught a glimpse. And yet hearing it out loud, hearing her own it, was like swallowing glass. "How long?" She exhaled. Rolled her eyes like I was asking about the weather. "About a year." A year. While I was budgeting to get us out of debt. While I was picking up her dry cleaning and sending her mom flowers on her birthday. While I was laying awake wondering why she stopped laughing at my jokes. She was giving pieces of herself to someone else, someone who made her feel like she existed again. I thought I'd snap. Thought I'd throw something. Thought I'd collapse onto the floor like in those awful melodramatic movies. But instead, I nodded. Just once. Slow. Like a man who had finally accepted gravity. "Okay," I said. That one word broke her more than I expected. She froze, her hand on the doorknob. Like she wanted me to fight. Like she was hoping for the explosion, because if I yelled, if I begged, if I called her names, she could be the victim. She could tell herself that I was cruel. That she had to leave. But I didn't give her that. I gave her silence. She turned to face me again, uncertain now. "That's it?" "Yeah," I said. "That's it." She lingered for a second too long. Like she was waiting for something to make this feel more cinematic. But the truth is, betrayal rarely ends with drama. It just ends. She left without another word. The screen door slapped shut behind her like a punctuation mark I didn't want. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, looking at the 2 wine glasses. She hadn't even bothered to put them away. They stood like statues of a life that didn't belong to me anymore. I found her phone charger by the window. Still plugged in. Still warm. It was the only trace that she had planned to stay. And I think that's when it hit me. She didn't just cheat on me. She prepared for a life that no longer included me, and did it with the calm of someone rescheduling a haircut. And somehow, the worst part wasn't that she left. It was that she expected me to collapse when she did. The next week was strangely calm. Almost sterile. She didn't come home. No apology text. No, "Can we talk?" No legal papers either, just absence, stretched across hours and routines like an invisible curtain. I thought maybe she was waiting for me to make the next move. Maybe she assumed I'd disappear into a sobbing mess, surrounded by takeout boxes and old photos. But I didn't. I didn't do what she expected. I didn't text her. Didn't block her. I just started watching. You learn a lot when you stop speaking. I noticed her friends, the ones who used to call me the nicest guy ever. Suddenly, they were quieter around me. I caught one of them, Marley, glancing at me in the grocery store like she saw a ghost. Another, Dana, liked one of my old Facebook photos of Brenna and me from our 3rd anniversary, then unliked it 10 minutes later. Subtle shifts. Like they knew. Like they'd always known. That's when the idea started forming. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to burn her stuff. I wasn't even going to confront Tyler, whoever he was. No. I wanted something quieter. More surgical. Something that didn't give her the explosion she was probably waiting for, something that made the truth impossible to ignore. So I invited them all to dinner. Not all of them at once. I'm not theatrical. I started with Marley. I sent her a message, "Hey. I know you've been close with Brenna for years. Would love to have you over for dinner. Just want to talk, no drama, promise. She replied within minutes. Of course. You okay? I told her I was fine. I wasn't. The night she came over, I cooked the same pasta dish Brenna always said was too heavy for her macros. Marley arrived in a floral dress, looking nervous. She brought wine. She hugged me like someone hugging a widow, tight but afraid of saying the wrong thing. We sat. We ate. I let her talk. She asked how Brenna was. I said I didn't know. I told her about the cabin. The envelope. The man. The red dress. I told her everything in the calmest tone I could manage. No anger. Just details, like I was recounting a dream I couldn't wake up from. Marley paled. She didn't deny it. She didn't pretend. She just sat back in her chair and whispered, I thought she was going to tell you. That confirmed it. They all knew. At least, the inner circle did. Maybe not every detail, maybe not every timeline, but enough. Enough to look me in the eye for months and pretend nothing was happening. Enough to help her keep secrets while I was planning anniversary getaways and downloading new couples therapy podcasts. And I didn't hate them for it. Not entirely. People take sides without realizing. They cling to the person who seems stronger. The one who leads the narrative. Brenna was a force of nature. I was, a soft place to land. Until I wasn't. Marley apologized. She cried. Told me she felt trapped in the middle. Said she loved us both. I nodded. Thanked her. Walked her out with the half-empty wine bottle still on the counter. I never raised my voice. But I could see it in her eyes as she left, guilt like a shadow glued to her heels. The next night, I invited Dana. Same dinner. Same story. Same stunned silence. By the third night, word must have spread. No one else responded to my messages. I didn't follow up. I didn't need to. The truth had done what it always does, crawl out slowly, then stand in the center of the room where no one could look away. And Brenna? Still silent. But I knew she knew. Because I got a text from her sister. I don't know what you're doing, but Brenna's not handling this well. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? She had her chance to handle things the right way, the honest way. She laughed instead. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for the truth to land in the laps of the people who helped her cover it. And if that made things uncomfortable, so be it. This was the first time I ever stood up for myself without yelling. And somehow, it hurt more than anything I'd ever said in anger. Because silence, when it's heavy enough, becomes impossible to ignore. And I wanted her to feel that silence in her bones. It happened late Sunday night. I had just taken the trash out and sat down with a frozen pizza and a documentary I wasn't actually watching. I was halfway through chewing a bite when the headlights hit the window. She was back. I didn't move. I just sat there as the car idled, then stopped. Door shut. Steps across the gravel. Her suitcase wheels clattered against the walkway like a drumroll. Then, silence. No knock. Just the jingle of keys at the door, like it was still hers. Like she had forgotten everything she'd said and done. She walked in wearing the same long beige coat she used to wear during our good winters. The ones when we decorated the tree together, when she made peppermint bark and teased me about how seriously I folded the gift wrap. That coat used to smell like cinnamon and her laugh. Now it just smelled like dust. She stood in the doorway and looked around, her hand still resting on the handle of her suitcase. I didn't speak. I didn't pause the TV. I just looked at her like she was a familiar stranger who accidentally wandered into the wrong house. And maybe she had. Because this wasn't her home anymore. Not really. Not after the envelope. The cabin. The red dress. The note she never meant for me to read. And not after the friends she swore weren't involved began texting me apologies like I'd been in a coma and just woke up. She cleared her throat and gave me a half smile. Hey. I blinked once. That was it. She shifted her weight from one heel to the other. So. I figured I'd come by and grab some things. I nodded slowly. You figured wrong. That caught her off guard. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she covered it fast. Irving, come on. I think we should talk. I finally paused the TV. You had weeks to talk. You used that time to disappear. And when you finally came back, it wasn't with an apology. It was with a suitcase. I didn't know how to explain it, she said quickly, setting her bag down. Everything just got complicated. Complicated? I laughed, the dry, bitter kind of laugh that comes from swallowing disappointment too many times. You had a man. A cabin. A getaway plan. A timeline for separation. That's not complicated. That's premeditated. She flinched at the word, but didn't argue. I stood up slowly and walked past her toward the hallway. Opened the closet door. It was empty. The hangers clinked against each other like bones. I boxed everything up last week. It's in the garage. Labeled. Taped. You'll find what you're looking for. Just not here. I could feel her staring at my back. The way she used to when I surprised her with gifts. But this time it wasn't affection in her gaze. It was confusion. Maybe even fear. You're serious? She asked, voice shaking just slightly. I turned around. As serious as you were when you booked that cabin. As serious as you were when you laughed at me. When you looked me in the eye, holding another man's plan in your pocket, and still walked out like I was disposable. She opened her mouth, then closed it. And then, for the first time in what felt like years, I saw her crack. I made a mistake, she said, eyes glossing over. I was lonely. You were always there, but not really there. And Tyler, he just. Don't say his name in my house, I snapped. The words came out sharper than I intended. My voice didn't rise, but it sliced. She froze. I'm not your recovery plan, I continued. And this house is no longer your hiding place. I let myself become background noise in your life, Brenna. I let you convince me that my softness was a flaw. That my consistency was dull. But I see now, you never wanted a partner. You wanted an audience. Tears welled up in her eyes. Maybe they were real. Maybe they were just for show. I didn't care anymore. She looked around the house like she was finally noticing the small changes, the way I replaced our photos with abstract prints, the fact that her coffee mugs were gone, that the blanket she always stole from the couch was folded neatly and boxed away. She was a ghost walking through a home that had already mourned her. She took a step toward me, but I didn't move. I didn't think you'd change, she whispered. I didn't, I replied. You did. I just stopped waiting for you to come back. She stood there for another 10 seconds, then turned, walked to the garage, and wheeled her suitcase behind her. I didn't follow. I didn't even shut the door after her. It's been 5 months. The leaves outside are turning orange again, just like they did the fall we got married. I used to dread this season, the way everything dies before it gets better. But now, I think I finally understand why it matters. Some things have to fall apart, rot even, before anything honest can grow again. Brenna never came back. Not really. She sent a few messages, some half-hearted apologies, a long paragraph about needing space to rediscover herself, and even one desperate attempt to meet, just for closure. I didn't respond. Because the truth is, I didn't need closure. I needed peace. And peace doesn't come from asking why someone stopped loving you. It comes from realizing their love wasn't meant to last, and that's okay. I sold the house. Packed everything I owned into a small moving truck and drove to a quieter town by the coast. Found a rental with creaky floors and wildflowers growing out of the cracks in the patio. Max, my cat, adjusted better than I did. He curls up beside me every night like nothing ever changed, like maybe I didn't fail at everything I thought I was good at. But here's the thing. I didn't fail. I was faithful. I was kind. I stayed when I had every reason to walk. And when the time came, I let go without turning bitter. That's not weakness. That's survival. I still make too much pasta for one person. Still fold the laundry too precisely. Still flinch when I hear a certain ringtone. But I also laugh more now. Real laughter. The kind that doesn't echo off resentment. I've started reading again. Cooking again. I even joined a hiking group last weekend, which is wild, considering I once Googled how to fake an ankle injury to get out of a company nature retreat. Healing is slow. Quiet. Boring, even. But it's honest. And that's more than I ever had with her in the end. So no, I didn't get revenge. I didn't post receipts online or ruin her reputation. I just chose to keep moving. And in a world that wants you to react to everything, choosing peace is the loudest thing I've ever done. Thanks for sticking with me through all 8 parts of this story. You're watching Reddit Confessions, and now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where silence said more than words ever could? Or a time when walking away was the most powerful choice you made? Drop your story in the comments. Let's make this more than just a confession. Let's make it a conversation. And if this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe for more true stories every week. See you next time.